Yo, people, what's going on? It's Egal Talks Football, and I'm back again with another video. Today, I got Matisse with us. Obviously, you guys already know Matisse from the Big Six, and of course, his own channel, doing big things over there with Don Robbie and all over the place. You can't miss him at this point. But yo, Matisse, man, this is a long time coming. I haven't had you on my channel before. I think I've worked with you twice before on Terrace once, and on Never a Foul, but never on my channel. So I really do appreciate you jumping on. And yeah, man, how you doing, man? How you feeling about Chelsea and everything going on this week, man?
Pleasure, bro. Pleasure, I have to say, first of all. And when it comes to Chelsea, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Like I've never gone into a Chelsea versus Arsenal game with such little hope and such little expectation. Like I'm really just, I would say I'm here for vibes, but I'm not even really getting vibes. You know what Crystal Palace are doing with Roy Hodgson, that's vibes. With even Ryan Mason at Tottenham, they're getting goals in games, 5 goals in the last 2 games. That's vibes. We ain't getting no goals, bro. So I can't even say I'm here for vibes. I'm just here. I'm just here.
Yeah, you know what, bro? Shoe was on the other foot not too long ago. I'm not gonna lie to you. I seen a team struggling, but it was defensively where we were struggling. We were always good at getting goals. We just struggled with our defense, and it was like sometimes you don't even see where the next win is going to come from. That's how it used to be for us, at least. Under the poor reign when Mikel Arteta's COVID season and Unai Emery's back end of Unai Emery's reign. But yo, man, you guys had a topsy-turvy season, man. From 2 managers being sacked, now interim manager. You're looking at Pochettino. Like, I think the best place to start is where were you when Tuchel got sacked, and what was your mindset from there to now? Like, have you ever you've been through managers getting sacked, but this has to be the worst you've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? 3? It's two full managers and 2 interims, because obviously Bruno was there as well, the Potter's assistant, for 1 game. You know, when Tuchel got sacked, it took me a day to respond, because I was with family when he got sacked. So it took me a good day to even respond on YouTube, because I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. So we weren't going for a great run of games. We had lost to Leeds, we had lost to Southampton, and then we had lost to Dinamo Zagreb as well, I think. But I wasn't expecting him to get sacked, that's for sure. So that came as a bit of a shock. And ever since then, I mean, it's been turmoil the whole season in terms of performance, let's be real. But that is where we accumulated a good amount of our points. You know, if we didn't have those points back then, we'd be in a proper relegation battle. At the moment, it's just a joking. It's a thing that we run as a joke, right? We're not on 40 points yet. We're in a relegation battle. But if we got off to the start that we're currently, if we were playing how we are playing now at the start of the season, if we were doing it then, we would be really in a relegation battle. And I'm not even confident we would get out of it with our fixtures. I think we'd get relegated. So yeah, that's where it is.
I think you're just too good to get relegated, my guy. Honestly, yeah, I know you're saying that, but like, really and truly, it would never be. It wouldn't be that bad. It would be bad. This is bad,
bro,
but it wouldn't get that bad.
We lost at home to Southampton. We've drawn at home to Everton. These are some of the worst teams in the league. We've beaten Leeds once. We lost to them away from home, so we took 3 points off Leeds. We're talking about some of the worst teams in the league. We've not done the double. It's everybody. Everybody's to blame. Everybody's to blame. Whether it's the ownership and unfortunately they're almost so childlike and kind of fan-like in the way that they've kind of gone about it. They've been so over the top in terms of the measures they've put in place to try and change the club as soon as possible. But it's backfired, because they've tried to do too much at once. And you know, this is real life. This is not Football Manager.
Finally, someone who agrees with me, because I've been getting on to Chelsea fans since summer saying Todd Bowley seems like his approach is kind of messy, and it doesn't seem like it's as calculated as Roman. I was giving a lot of your credit to what you guys have done over your successful period to Roman Abramovich, and I'm hearing Chelsea fans now criticizing Roman post-Roman, saying it's his fault that we're in this situation. And
I think Roman does have to take some responsibility as well, because listen, Chelsea were not competing for a league title since 2017. We'd fallen off in the league. We were going in top 4 races every single year. We'd obviously won the Champions League, but we weren't playing at the highest level of European football at the back end of Roman's time. From a recruitment standpoint, we had fallen off massively because we had lost the structure, and it showed in our performance. And then on top of that, add to the fact that the instability of managers revolving in and out the door, we've seen our stability is key, right, with Klopp and Pep. So we were going in a downward trajectory, I think, and I think we were going to find it tough. First of all, we were running out of managers, and second of all, we were going to find it tough to get back to competing without a proper structure in place, which was not just having Marina and that's about it. So it hasn't just started with Todd, but I think Todd has accelerated where we are right now. We wouldn't be in this position, I think, if we had just calmed it down. And I'm not saying Tuchel was the perfect manager for us, because listen, he did have a few things in recruitment, which again, a position he should never have been in, but he did have some things in recruitment over that summer that I didn't like. But he's still much better than the managers that have come after him. And even if you were going to get rid of him because you didn't see eye to eye, you should have took a bit longer to reassess your options and bring in those technical directors and bring in those people around you to make those decisions of who the next person would be, instead of just going off a hunch with Graham Potter because you like what Brighton have done. So for me, that was where we went left. From that moment there, we'd really taken a plunge. I don't think Tuchel would have us down in 11th at all, or 12th. Sorry, I don't think I would. He might have us in 6th. We might have not made top 4, maybe, but we would have at least been in and around it, I think, especially without a chaotic January transfer window. So I think we could have definitely stopped the bleeding a lot earlier than we did if we had just been a little bit more calm. But hindsight, isn't it? It's hindsight, because listen, when you're fans of a football club and you're making loads of signings, you're signing loads of young talent, of course you're going to be excited. If you was to load up a game, you would sack all of the recruitment staff and medical team that you don't like. So he's just done something that a lot of fans would do, but it doesn't work in the real world. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's not. You need some level of a smooth transition into a new generation. But let me know, I hear you talking about Enzo a lot. How good is he? Because that's like your shining light. Enzo Fernandez coming in this season. That's the one thing you guys can look at and be like, you know what? That makes me happy to watch the games. So let me know a little bit about Enzo, because as an Arsenal fan, I watch Chelsea, but I just see your poor performances. I don't look at Enzo under a microscope the way you guys do.
I think, and listen, for me, Enzo is going to be a top player. I have no doubts about that. I don't think Enzo's been like absolutely incredible, but nobody has since he's come in. He's come in under awful circumstances. So the team right now, there's not a single person that I can point out that's playing brilliantly. You could say there's people that are coping better than others. Enzo would maybe be one of them. You could say Badiashile when he was playing for Fana as well. There are players that are coping better than others, but for me, Enzo, there's many, many more gears for him to kick onto, loads of levels for him to keep going up to. But his passing is ridiculous. His long range passing, his vision is something we've been crying out in this team for a long time. And now we have it. So he's one of the players we're going to be building the team around. Lampard's been speaking glowingly of him, which is one of the few things that Lampard's been saying that I've actually liked to hear. The rest of it's been a bit of a madness since he's come through the door. But he's been saying he's a future leader of the team and whatnot, and the future of the midfield. So for me, I have no worries about Enzo. Enzo's going to be a top player. I don't look at anybody right now and I can't sit here and be like, oh yeah, I can't. This person's playing incredible. We're five defeats in a row under Lampard. It's difficult to pluck out any positives out of that.
Fair enough. Big up everyone in the comment section. Do me a favor, make sure you do hit that goddamn like button. And of course, Matisse's channel link is in the title of the video. Matisse, now I'm just going to ask you, before we get into Arsenal, because I know you're going to have a little bit to say about Arsenal, let's just finish off with the Chelsea portion of the video. Pochettino, what's your stance on it? Because personally for me, I feel like Chelsea fans who don't want him just because of his links to Spurs are forgetting about Glenn Hoddle, forgetting about the fact that you should look at the manager and not the CV specifically always. I feel like we're so caught up with CVs. That's why Mikel Arteta didn't get much time from a lot of fans, because of his CV. And look at how things working out for him right now. So yeah, what do you think about Pochettino coming to Chelsea?
I feel like I was one of the first people online to really, as a Chelsea fan, to really start saying that I want Pochettino, because it's not favorable. It was not a favorable move. It was definitely a controversial one for a lot of people. They didn't want Poch. A lot of people still don't want Poch. A lot of the narratives of him, being a bottler, not having a winning mentality, not being good enough, being former Tottenham, all of these things, right, going against him. But for me, I was never I was never on board with any of that. I think as a coach, he's very underrated. He's been very disrespected. I think he's done incredible for youth development and player development at Southampton and Tottenham. I think he's learned from his time at PSG dealing with those egos. He did win the league. A lot of people will say, yes, he didn't win the league the first time with Lille winning it. I think he lost out by a point or something. I think he came midway through the season. Listen, it happens. You know, not every single year a manager who is expected, or a team is expected to win the league, win it. That is definitely a chink on his armor. That is, but you know, if you're pointing at Pochettino's career and you can only find one half of a season where you could say that he outrightly failed, which is all that anyone can really point to, that is a pretty impressive record when he's been managing for what, 8 seasons. So for me, when I look at Pochettino, I think he's a great coach, man. And don't get me wrong, he's not perfect. He's not world class. He's not elite. He's not Pep. But I would put him in that category below. And I'd say that if you give, you know, one thing you're going to get with Pochettino is you're definitely going to get great football. He's very heavy on fitness, which is exactly what this team need right now. They need to get back to being physically fit. Serious preseason is needed. Serious work rate is needed, but then also a proper coach who has a way he wants to play. And we saw what he did for Dele Alli's career. We've seen what he done for Harry Kane, for all of these guys that came at Southampton that was taken by Liverpool. All of these players. So for me, I'm very convinced that if we give this guy time, he's going to take us a lot closer to where we want to be. I'm not saying that he's going to win the league. I'm not saying that he's going to finish off the job. That's why I wouldn't give him a 5-6 year contract. I'd give him a 2 or 3 year contract. But I know that he can develop players, which we have a lot of players to develop, take them to the next level. And then it's time to finish off the job and go and win a league and go and win a Champions League. Maybe he can win it. Maybe he can't. But he there's no excuse for why he can't get a cup and get rid of that whole trophy nonsense that's around his name. And there's no excuse why he can't get us into the top 4. As long as we put the things around him in place, trim the squad, you know, the owner stops coming into the changing room and having pep talks, all of that stuff. Just get back to being a normal football club and be back to being a little bit more stable and settled. I have no doubts that this guy can take us back into a respectable position with a trophy alongside it. He needs to have like a Ten Hag kind of season. I'd be saying something like that.
So first, let's jump into the Arsenal side. But before we jump into the Arsenal side, let's find out where this comes from, Matisse. Because like, you're raised in London, lived in London your whole time, so you know a lot of Arsenal fans. Growing up a Chelsea fan, however long ago you started that, Arsenal were probably the team at the top, and you're getting a lot of slack. So you've gone through ups and downs. Let me know a little bit about your time as a Chelsea fan, how it started off, and what's your relationship with Arsenal? Because to me, it kind of seems like you have a banterous relationship towards Arsenal, where you just troll us a lot, but similar to how Babs trolls everybody else. But at the same time, I feel like that it comes from the fact that you might be a little bit older than I think. And you might have seen Arsenal's good days also.
I came in at the back end of Arsenal's great days, the Henry black gloves, you know, burgundy 02 kit. Those are the days there. But for me, it comes from it's London. It's banter. Do you know what I mean? It's going to school and most of the people there are Arsenal fans, and what we had over you with Drogba, and you know, it was great. It was brilliant. Those were the days. Do you know what I mean? Drogba. Every time we used to play against you with Drogba, it used to be a festival. It used to be the carnival. But you guys would always, you know, clap back with the Invincibles, and we've won more trophies and biggest team in London. And to be fair, before we had got our first Champions League, there was not really any debate, really, because we couldn't really shut you up. You said there still isn't, but now we've got our European pedigree in order with the 2 Champions Leagues and the 2 Europa Leagues, plus the other silverware from before in Europe. I think now it's a conversation that at least we can have. But before, it was a non-starter. You know, it was just like, shut up immediately. So no, it just comes from a banter, really. And funnily enough, every time I go out, I'm bumping into Arsenal fans all the time. They're always brilliant. Arsenal fans to me, they're always quality. They get the banter. We have our back and forths, the convos about the 2 teams, and it's always calm. Tottenham's hatred. Do you know what I mean? Like Tottenham is something where it's another level. I'd say Arsenal sits in a certain category of dislike, but then Tottenham goes into another level where it's just, there isn't even banter. Like, you man, just shut up, innit? Just don't even talk. Do you know what I mean? But but Arsenal, yeah, Arsenal's just, like I said, I was surrounded by Arsenal fans, man. My auntie's an Arsenal fan. Just bare Arsenal fans everywhere. It doesn't matter where you are in London; they seem to be everywhere.
So before we get into bigger fish to fry, I watch your channel. I'm not gonna lie. I watch Hussam and and when you have Hussam and everybody on, and even when you do the London show. But one thing that's been a theme has been stop Arsenal from winning the league. Stop Arsenal from winning the league. Stop Arsenal from winning the league.
Yeah.
First of all, do you feel like you've been successful in your task? And also, how do you feel about it? Because in my opinion, you're basically wishing harm for your friend. You know what I mean? Let's be honest. Why do you want Man City to win it so bad? They beat you in the Champions League. I get it. You don't want Arsenal to win the league.
They haven't beaten us in the Champions League. We beat them.
No. But I mean, you beat them in the Champions League final. But you don't really have no hard feelings towards them. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, don't you want to see someone else win the league? Don't you want to see somebody else lift that trophy? Don't you want it to be like, you know what? Give these guys something, because it's like at this moment in time, we've been through so much. I feel like you should give some compassion to some of your Arsenal friends. But hey, it is what it is.
I've got a lot of Arsenal mates. It would be nice to see Turkish happy, to see Potts happy, to see all of these guys happy, but no, because at the end of the day, I will never hear the end of it. God forbid, if you guys were to win the league, Ty would not stop talking about it in studio. Every time I go in on a Monday, I'd just be hearing Ty. Like Ty would not. It would not be. I think the rest of my career as a content creator, if you lot won the league, it would just be every day, every single day. It would be.
But you said this about Liverpool, and then the next year they lost, and then you still bantered them.
So let me tell you, the thing is with Arsenal in particular, right? Is because I'm in London. I know I'm gonna wherever I go. Most of the time. Would you have
come to the parade?
No, of course not.
Come on.
I would have been out. I would have been out. No, I would have been out the country. Why would I come to your parade? I'd leave the country. I wouldn't even be in the same land. I wouldn't even be on the same British Isles if you were doing a parade. I'd be gone, out of sight, out of mind. When Liverpool do their thing, that's Merseyside's business. When Manchester do their thing, that's Manchester's business. I don't like them, but they're far away. Do you know what I mean? So they're not touching distance. Man City, I've always told them they're an oil brother. Now, funnily enough, you see this whole thing about seeing new people win it. This is the same kind of narrative that gets put when an English team is in the Champions League. Why don't you just wish them well? I don't wish them well. When Man City play Real Madrid, I'm Spanish. I'll be saying hola. Do you know what I mean? I'll be eating tapas. I'll be saying all these things. I don't want no English team to win nothing on my watch. And if an English team has to win something because my team is awful, then I need to pick a team that doesn't cause me any pain. And Man City, they don't do anything for me, man. Like, there's never going to be a real rivalry of Man City when it comes to us. Like, Champions League, we had that one moment in Porto, me and Big Steve going back and forth, but it's short-lived. It's not the same. It's not deep. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's not going to be the same. But then everybody else, like literally everybody else, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, Tottenham, everyone, the original four, remember the original top four? Like all of those teams, I can't wish you, man, well. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. I think the old school Chelsea fans probably hate Liverpool more than Arsenal. Some of them, like some of the old schools, because I know my uncle's a Chelsea fan. This guy tried to put a Rozovsky kit on me when I was a kid. I take a Rozovsky kit off me and give me Shevchenko kit. I was like, what are you doing with this shit? He's like, but hey, it is what it is. Chelsea, man. I personally dislike Chelsea more than Tottenham. Because I grew up around no Tottenham fans. I didn't even know any single Tottenham fan growing up at all in Canada. So once I moved here, I actually seen Tottenham fans.
There's not many of them in London, if I'm being honest, mate. There's not.
Hey, if you go North London, you'll find them, but they don't speak about it.
They don't speak. That's very true. I think there are Tottenham fans around, but they just don't speak. I don't see them coming up to me and talking and like they don't
wear their colors.
Yeah, they're not. It's not the same. They're very like. They're very soft-spoken. They're very inconspicuous.
Yeah, I did grow up in the Chelsea area. Let's be honest. The TVs over in Canada didn't show the games as much until Chelsea started winning. 2003, you first, like one of the first times you could actually watch all the games that were on TV. Where prior to that, like prior to the 2000s, the games were not on TV as much in Canada. Where over here. I'll be honest, I wasn't even able to watch FA Cup games or League Cup games much at all over there before like the late 2000s. That was where things changed. But when it comes to Chelsea, Arsenal. Let's get a little bit into this. Before we do that, I forgot one thing. Bigger fish to fry. Bro, Robbie is my guy. Robbie's your guy, but you cooked him for that. But let's be honest. Do you really believe a lot of the fan base have that same sentiment going out of other cups? Because I believe it's a myth. And it's painting everybody with the same brush. And I get that some people believed it and some people are like, you know what, this is going to push us on. But when you're in the cup, you want to win it. Nobody's going to say this while they're in the cup. Everyone was just saying it after we got knocked out. So that's why I feel like it's a myth and it has to stop. And that's why
this is why it was really just for him. This is, you know, the bigger fish to fry was just, and I thought of the idea on Saturday, and luckily production, they just knew what time it was immediately. As soon as I spoke about it on a Grand Prix watch along I was doing with them, they were like, yes, we're running with this. This is a great idea. It was for Robbie because he was very confident in this bigger fish to fry. And there was a few people that also got involved, but a lot of Arsenal fans, you're right, a lot of Arsenal fans didn't agree with it. And I remember Hugh was saying on Big Six, he was saying it's actually better to play more regularly. Obviously, you guys don't have the same squad depth, but in terms of if you get a bad result, at least you can correct it a couple of days later and it doesn't marinate and sit with you for a whole week. And I get the logic for both sides because you guys, listen, you don't have a fixed squad and maybe you would have picked up injuries and you want to have more time to prepare. But then you absolutely must pick up those points to West Ham and Southampton. If you've had that time to prepare, and let's be real, you don't have many injuries. It was just Saliba. Do you know what I mean? Maybe Tomiyasu.
Injuries are an excuse. We should be able to manage. We should be
handling that.
Bro, the reality is, I will openly say Mikel Arteta is at fault for not making any changes once Saliba got injured. He managed for 2 games. The moment there was an issue, what do other managers do? They make a change. He kept the same team and we continued to drop points. And it was insanity at a certain point. When we went into the Man City game, I said to myself, this is insane. We're going with the same team, expecting a different result.
Funnily enough, right? So you bought Kivior for left side centre-back, left-footed, cool. You could have got a centre-back that could play both right and left side, because there are defenders that can do that. But you went with a more specific backup to Gabriel because you wanted to shore that up. But even if you had got a right back in January, you could have moved Ben White inside because that's where he used to play. So you had options there to kind of move things around. But I don't know, like when I've been doing previews for this game, even people have been talking about Partey tomorrow dropping into centre back and Jorginho coming in. I've not really watched Partey ever play centre back.
James is talking. He's never gonna play centre back.
It's not gonna happen, is it? It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, he's probably gonna play Rob Holding. That's the reality.
Yeah. But you guys don't need to worry because we don't score goals anyway. So
we're gonna look at the team because I have the team ready to go in a second. But before we go that, let's just finish off this bigger fish to fry. All right, so you're done with the bigger fish to fry because I know Lee Gunner and everybody else are in the Arsenal fan base who don't like Mikel Arteta to a certain degree or want him sacked are going to run with it. But it's fair, deservedly so. It was out there. Robbie said it. Robbie's one of the biggest Arsenal fans in socials, so anything he says is going to be caught on to, and deservedly so. But hey, we get the banter. I'm going to take it on the chin. A lot of Arsenal fans are going to take it on the chin, but you do realize, Matisse, we didn't actually play weak squads in those cups that we got knocked out.
I watched the Sporting Lisbon return leg, and you didn't play your strongest team. You didn't play. You brought them off the bench when you needed the goals, and then you didn't get them, and you went out on penalties. In the FA Cup, you did rest a little bit against City as well. So I'm not saying that Arteta purposefully went out of these competitions, but you definitely rotated. And again, you don't have the thickest squad in terms of the quality deficit from the 11 to the bench. But then a lot of Arsenal fans will say, well, then why didn't you guys go harder in the January window? Like Trossard's been a brilliant signing. Jorginho hasn't been getting used in some of these Premier League games where maybe you did need to take Partey out or whatever. Why is he not trusted considering his leadership and his experience? Obviously, he has deficiencies. Kivior is what, 21? And let's be real, he can't come in for anyone under these circumstances. So
only for a season. Let him have a pass.
People, this is where I disagree with a lot of people that I've heard speak on it. I wouldn't go to Arteta and go crazy with the criticism because we know Arteta, he wanted first choice targets and he didn't get them, right? Vlahovic last year, people are saying, oh, imagine if you had him now, more clinical than Jesus. It's all hypothetical. But at the end of the day, he wanted to go stay in Italy. You take a look at Mudryk. That was a first choice. You know, Caicedo was a first choice in midfield. So Arteta wanted stronger options in terms of certain players, but you guys in the end, maybe you didn't have the money or whatever, you didn't get them and you went with other options. So you have to go to the board and Edu maybe a little bit on this one and say, okay, you guys needed to go harder in January. I always said it. I didn't think your signings were bad, but you guys, this was a great opportunity. You could have really could have done something here. Even though you've lost to City 3 times this season, this title was not decided on City.
Just save it there. I want to come back to this topic. Let me just read the super chat because we're going away from the bigger fish to fry topic. He says, "Big up Iga." And by the way, Matisse, did Ty end up eating the uncooked fish? Nah, he didn't. Let's be honest. But yeah, big up Kabak, man. Well-known super chat on the channel. I really do appreciate the super chat, my guy. But yeah, man, did you actually cook the fish, or was it just like you just?
We did turn it on. And we were gonna actually cook it. I was saying to them, I will cook it and I'll burn it and serve it. But then they were like, if we we don't want the fire alarms to go off and everything. So
yeah,
which I was here for, but they were like, no.
Yeah. Do you think you were just about to say something? Do you honestly believe this Arsenal team next year will somewhat not be in the same thing? Because I've heard Chelsea fans on other streams. I was on Lewis's channel yesterday, and they were telling me that Arsenal in the Champions League haven't been in the Champions League in a while. You're gonna be playing twice a week with your best team. You no more rotating in a Europa League team. So guess what? Now you're gonna have more issues. You're not gonna have the same level of depth, and you're not gonna be able to put in the same damage that you did in the Premier League like you did this year. So with and they're expecting us to challenge. I'm expecting us to challenge next year and to at least get out of the round of 16 and try to get into the quarterfinals. But maybe that's too much to ask because some people are saying you're definitely going to fall off next year. Where do you stand with that?
It all depends on your window. It all depends. You need to get another big name in midfield. You need to take a look at that centre-back situation. You need to take a look at maybe one more. Like, you just need to readdress and gloss over your spine again at a bare minimum. I don't know what the situation is with Tierney because he's very injury prone and you do but then you need to get another left back in that can defend because Zinchenko can't. So you just need to be very serious about topping up these areas. You guys know where your weaknesses are, where your squad depth falters a little bit. Saka on the right side, you weren't going to use Marquinhos, so you have to take a look at that. Like, outside of the window, it will be very difficult for you to do this again with Champions League because I saw your group for Europa League, you know, Zurich and all these teams. You're not coming up against these teams in Champions League. You're going to have to play your strongest team if you want to get out of the group. And we've seen Man United exit the group and go into Europa League. We've seen it. We've seen many teams falter. So you will have to play your strongest team from the get-go. But until that window's done, it's hard to tell. And the thing is with Premier League right now, it's so unpredictable. You know, no one expects you to be here in second right now. So, you know, like, you can't predict it. I thought at most you guys would challenge for top 4 again. You might get in, you might not. But you guys have gone and challenged for the league. So as much as you would expect them to go and do it again, who knows? Maybe you could be 5th next year. Like, you just don't know. It depends on what other teams do, what happens, and look, we have Aston Villa. You know, Aston Villa, if Emery comes in early, maybe they're in the top 4 earlier. Maybe they're in the top 4. The league is too much of a mess right now. The only team that are guaranteed to be where they are is Man City. Everybody else is just moving around and in circulation. I remember Man United finished 2nd under Oli. Next season they finish 6th or 7th, I think it was. So yeah, it's just tough, man. Tough to predict. Premier League's a bit of a mess, but it's great.
Fair enough. You know what? Just before we get into the game, just quick thoughts. You said something about the manager there. Would you consider Mikel Arteta as a candidate? Obviously, he's a candidate for manager of the season, but who would you give your manager of the season to? Because I'm starting a lot of controversy by saying Arteta's still going to win it, even if we don't win the league.
I think if you'd won the league, it would have been a non-starter. It would have been a clear Arteta win. I think, don't get me wrong, he's definitely a contender. But I think Eddie Howe deserves a mention. I think a lot of people are not mentioning Marco Silva, and I don't know why, because Fulham were expected to get relegated, and they are comfortably in mid-table. You have to mention Emery as well, I think. Pep, obviously, just because he's going to win the league, but I wouldn't give it to Pep personally. So it's tough. It's tough. For me right now, I would be edging towards Eddie Howe. Even De Zerbi, someone's saying. So listen, I don't think we've had a year like this where there's so many contenders for manager of the year. Gary O'Neill. So it's crazy. It really is crazy. There's a lot of options out there because there's a lot of teams that have done things that we never would have expected. Everybody had Bournemouth to go down. Everybody had a lot of people had Fulham to go down. Newcastle were expected to challenge for, you know, Europe, maybe on the fringes of Europe, 7th max. They're in the top 4 and pretty comfortable. Best defense in the league. So Emery took Gerrard's 17th place, Villa up to 5th, 6th. It's nuts. There's a lot of guys that have to be given their flowers. So I don't think Arteta's I don't think he's running away with that one. And I would be surprised if he got it personally, just because of the fact that I think if you're looking at Eddie Howe's job in a shorter space of time, what he's been able to do. Last season they were in a relegation battle, then he got them into mid-table. Now they're in the top 4. Like he's taken that team from the pits of hell all the way up to basically in your territory in a much shorter space of time. Then obviously Arteta has been here a bit longer, and it was an 8th to now title chase. So I'd be looking at Eddie Howe slightly on this one. I'm not going to lie.
Gerrard shade, people are saying. I know this season is probably not the season to do a combined 11 based on form, but you know me, I always do it just for bands. But when it comes to Chelsea, would you say there's any Chelsea players that would get into Arsenal Chelsea combined 11?
I think Thiago Silva always gets in because he's a legendary generational defender, and on top of that, somehow we have a better defensive record than you this season. I think Chelsea have the 3rd best defensive record in the Premier League, and you guys have been conceding a lot of goals. That's kind of why you're where you are in the title races. You've kind of been in the end that Liverpool, Suarez, Sturridge, under Brendan Rodgers' team, where you've scored loads of goals, played brilliant football. But 2 goals conceded against Bournemouth at home, 2 at Villa Park. It kind of set the tone for.
It all really happened at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Your
defense was good. It was good.
We were 1 goal behind Newcastle with the best defense.
Yeah.
Saliba got injured. We've conceded 11 goals in the Premier League since he's got injured.
Yeah.
Mental. But so this is the combined 11. I didn't have Enzo for. I put Xhaka in just because Xhaka has been more in the. He's been around.
Enzo came in half the season, isn't it?
Yeah, and then there's no Reece James because Reece James is injured.
Yeah.
So I remember just a year ago.
If this is on form, it's not
ridiculous.
It's not wrong. No, it's not wrong at all. I think it's spot on if it's on form. Look, listen, Chelsea's attack, none of Chelsea's attack can talk to Arsenal's attack. If we're talking about midfield, Enzo only arrived in January, and Kante's been injured most of the season. So again, if this is not on ability and we're talking on form, it's easy. And the back line, I think only Silva, Badiashile started off really well, but then he's not been in the team. Chilwell versus Zinni, I think, listen, we can't do too much revisionism on Zinni. Zinni's been incredible this season. Zinchenko has been much better than Chilwell this season. The only problem with Zinchenko is the last 3-4 weeks, he's just kind of just capitulated, made loads of errors and been done. But if we're talking about over the course of the whole season, Zinchenko has to be there. And Ben White has been playing. He's been probably best right back in the league. Again, Reece James has been injured. I think if we're talking about ability, I'm not going to take Ben White over Reece James, and there'll be a couple of others. But if we're talking on form, then it has to be like that. Obviously, Zinni, someone will say Zinni can't defend, but Trent can't defend either. It doesn't mean that we don't give them their ratings for what they can do. It just means that you have to cover for them. But if we're talking about performance, Zinchenko's performance this season has been really high, man. It's been proper.
This is my segment that I do whenever I have a guest from another team before a big game. Let me know, what is the game that you remember the most from since 2010 till now? Chelsea. And it can be a home game, away game. What do you think? What game do you remember the most from this matchup? Because for me, I'll tell you right now, the game that started the whole Arsenal rebuild was this game right here. It got Frank Lampard sacked, and it was the game that Emil Smith Rowe Project Restart started. This is the game that changed Arsenal Football Club and Chelsea Football Club. If it wasn't for this game, Frank Lampard would have still been your manager. Thomas Tuchel wouldn't have came in the moment he came in, and maybe you don't win the Champions League.
Yeah. There's a 3-0 defeat at the Emirates as well under Conte that kind of led us to go and win the league. We went on to go and win the league as well because we changed system after that game.
What year was that? 2016?
2016-17, yeah.
Yeah.
There is...
Look at that team, bro.
Yeah. You know, that
you still have Kante in your team from that team.
Yeah. I remember I think Kante was playing as a holding midfielder that game.
Aspie.
As a DM. Aspie, yeah. No, listen, some of these guys have been around, man. I'm never going to forget the Drogba masterclass at the Emirates. I think it
Chalobah's older brother.
yeah, Nathaniel, yeah.
Okay, what was the other game? Sorry for distracting.
I think it was a 4-1 at the Emirates. Drogba did a madness a long time ago now. I can't remember the year.
You're taking me back to freaking what year was that? Nothing pre 2010.
Yeah, 6-0. Wenger's 1000th game as well.
2014.
Yeah, that was a good day. I must say.
Even Mo Salah scored. Let's see that team quick. Samuel Eto'o. Bro, this team was horrendous from our side. You know what? This team actually, we have some decent players. Arteta was in the midfield that game.
Wow.
But that's mad. this team was a title winner. Like,
that's mad, you know. Wow, you guys had Arteta playing in that game.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago.
Is that the game where Chamberlain?
This is 10 years ago.
Chamberlain and Gibbs the referee got them mixed up or some bullshit. Yeah.
That was 15 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we've had some crazy games, man. We've had some crazy games, but none more emotional for both fan bases, I don't think, than that final. Hazard's last game, the Europa League final.
Yes.
Bro. You must have loved it. But for me, this game, it hurt. And what hurt even more was Olivier Giroud left with some respect from Arsenal. The day when he celebrated, said, "Thank you, Arsenal," on that bus, I was done with it. That was the day I said, I'm not going to talk about Olivier Giroud and his Arsenal career because what he's done at Chelsea is now eclipsed it.
I used to go into finals so confident against you lot, man. Like FA Cup finals, League Cup finals, this Europa League final, just no stress coming into the game. Like, because I just knew when it came to performing on the big stage, we just had players that could just turn it on. And Giroud stepped up massively. That was a great performance, though. Sarri's, that was kind of like the end of what Sarri would have been building and working on the whole time, the whole season. It finally came to a conclusion in that game. We played some brilliant football. And when you got Hazard, man, it opens up new doors when you got Hazard in your team. This guy was a menace. What he did to Coquelin as well at Stamford Bridge, I'll never forget that.
What day was that? What game was that? Like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that game.
I don't remember the score, you know. I don't know. Maybe it was like a 2-0 win or at home, but I can't remember the score.
That was at the Emirates.
No. He spun Coquelin at Stamford Bridge. Remember when he turned into a fidget spinner? That was definitely at Stamford Bridge. Definitely. Okay.
And you know what? There was a game. I feel like it's this game here where we drew 2-2 and we celebrated it.
Yeah, I didn't like that game at all.
Because this game here, Bellerin scored, Martinelli scored that crazy goal. Goal that from the halfway yard line. Bro, this team has changed so much in such a short time period. It's crazy. Both teams actually. Yeah,
this is the game where I think it was Conte slipped, was it?
Yeah, Conte slipped on the halfway. Martinelli scored. Bro, Martinelli's a star. Yeah, Bukayo Saka was playing right wing back that game. Mad.
Mad. Left wing back. Yeah.
Let's look at today's matchup and the teams. Looking at your team now, bro, your team has fallen off massively. Like no star power, I feel like. You besides Thiago Silva. And I just want to say this. What Thiago Silva is doing at his age, people don't give him enough credit. I feel like people look at Thiago Silva and they disrespect the career this guy's having. PSG, since he's left them, they look a shell of themselves defensively. Even though they're winning leagues and everything else, those kind of players, the intangibles they bring to the table, you've seen it immediately, how much he raised your levels. And I might talk bad about Chelsea a lot and I might make jokes about Chelsea, but one person you cannot criticize in that Chelsea team is Thiago Silva and the mentality he's brought to your team. And I really do believe if he could be a coach one day, and you could see him doing a lot of great things, because that's the kind of mentality the mindset he has. He's like a coach on the pitch for you guys. And that's the reason why your defense is so good, even though you're poor and you have all these players coming in. Thiago Silva is the guy who's keeping that defense ticking over. And it kind of reminds me of when you had John Terry at the back. I think if you're ever going to do a Chelsea combined 11,
he has to be in it.
Thiago Silva has to be in there now with John Terry.
Yeah, I agree. I think Carvalho obviously really pushes everybody there close, because Carvalho was incredible. But if I'm taking prime Thiago Silva next to prime John Terry, I think it's unstoppable. It's a ridiculous combination. But coming into this game, bro, I mean, you just had the lineups up there. We was playing some weird little 3-5-2 formation with Gallagher and Sterling up there, and Kante's playing right wing and crossing into the box. If Lampard throws this type of team up in about an hour and 15 minutes time, I don't know what. My head's going to be gone, because I don't need to see this team play like this again. I don't need to see this lineup again. Truly disgusting lineup, honestly. One of the worst lineup I've ever seen was against Brentford last game in the Premier League. Just awful.
Do you want me to show you what the lineup was for people who don't know?
Show them, because I'll remember it. I will never forget it.
what was the team? What was it? Brentford?
Brentford. That was the.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch the game, but wow.
Well, yeah, you guys were playing City at the time.
Chilwell, Kovacic, Bruno Fernandez, Azpilicueta. Okay, where's your goals gonna come from?
Exactly, bro. I don't know what he was playing up, honestly.
Sterling can't do it by himself. Like, you need someone to link it.
Sterling's he's not a striker, playing out of position. Like I said, it's the worst lineup I've ever seen.
What was the default setup? Was it a 5-4-1?
It was a 3. Listen, I would call it a 3-6-1, because there's only one attacker on that pitch, and that's Sterling. But in essence, that is exactly what it was a 3-4-3. Gallagher and Kante were pressing high up the pitch, and it was just disgusting, honestly. Like, criminal. I don't even know.
What would you do better to change this? Because if you know
everything. I change everything. I would put Kante back into the midfield next to Enzo. Take Cover out. Put Loftus-Cheek at right wing back if you don't have Reece James because he's injured. Take out Azpilicueta because he can't handle that type of that responsibility from an athleticism standpoint, and put some attackers in attack. It's really simple, you know. It doesn't take a genius to work out that Sterling, Gallagher, and Kante are not going to create any chances together, and they're not going to score any goals. You've got Aubameyang there. May as well use him. Put him up front. He can finish. If you're not going to use him, then use Datro Fofana, who's a young striker that we signed in January, and give him a run out, and whatever he does. And play Mudryk and play Madueke, play wingers on the wing. Because at the moment, you know, he's one of the worst managers in the league, statistically and probably factually. So we're not expecting any incredible positional play to be implemented here in some fantastic build-up play like De Zerbi. We're not going to get that level of coaching right now. The bare minimum you can do if you're Lampard with the level of coaching that you have is to just put people in their position and see if they can put something together. But if you can't even put people in their position, then it's not going to work.
Just so anyone who doesn't know, Mason Mount and Reece James are out. But what's the extent of Reece James' injury? Is he out for the season?
I think both of them will miss the rest of the season. Yeah. I think they'll both be protected to kind of try and recover from any niggles that they've had over the last couple of weeks, because they've had niggles. I think Mount's gone for surgery. Reece hasn't, but a lot of people felt like he could have or should have. Maybe he doesn't need it, but he definitely needs a timeout because he's been very injury prone this year. So I don't think we'll see them until next season.
Talk to me about Mason Mount to Arsenal or to Liverpool or just to leave Chelsea, because I'm hearing he's out the door. And is it something that you'd be welcoming, or because I know he's very much Marmite for your own fan base, as you guys would say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be welcoming it. You know, nobody wants to. Well, I wouldn't want to lose a 2-time player of the year, even if that second player of the year is contentious and it should have been a defender. And I agree with that. But, you know, at the end of the day, he was at least a contender. And that goes to show that he was one of our top performers, or at least he was one of our players that would stand up and do something. Statistically, he did very well. I think his overall gameplay was better in his first player of the season. I think he was a better player then, and I think he's regressed and he's stagnated for the last year to 18 months. However, he's also been overplayed, and he's been moved around by managers and put in positions that maybe don't always favor him or don't favor his development. So it would be good to be able to put a pause on it, give him to a manager like Pochettino and get him back on the right track. And I don't even need Mason Mount to be a starter. I don't really mind personally. I think that there needs to be competition. He needs to be pushed to his limits. He needs to fight back for his place. He needs to be competing with top players. But I think in terms of selling, I don't think he should be outrightly sold given what he's done up until this point. But if he is, then we'll have to take it and move on. I'm not going to cry about it. Do you know what I mean? We've lost top world-class players before. He's still a player that is below that. He's not world-class or anything. He just needs to improve. He needs to get back on track. And then we go from there. But ideally, I'd like him to stay, because I think if he leaves, I think he'll do very well. It's not like a Gallagher situation where I'll take the money for Gallagher and not even think twice. I think Mount's got fundamentals, and I've seen ability in him already. So at the top level. So that's where I'd be a little bit more wary of letting him go to our rival as well.
Just to talk about transfers quickly. I see you all the time on the timeline talking about your academy players. I remember having a space where I was speaking to you about Broha. Declan Rice came from your academy. Lamptey came from your academy. Guahi, who we're currently linked to, is a center back at Crystal Palace, came from your academy. Why don't your academy players flourish at Chelsea? And is it just by design that you guys sell them on to flourish elsewhere?
To be honest, in the recent years, Chelsea have had probably more academy players than most top teams until Arsenal came around with Saka and Smith Rowe, etc. But we've had Christensen, we've had Tomori play a couple seasons. We had Tammy Abraham get his opportunities. Mount, James, so Callum Hudson-Odoi also got his opportunities for many years. So we have put young players through. Consequently, a transfer ban obviously helped that. But I think, I think it comes from ownership, previous ownership, and this ownership as well, constantly wanting to win now, right? And that's what it's been. Even in this ownership's first window, it was a very instant impact type window. It was an average age of 27, 28. Koulibaly, Sterling, Cucurella,
Colwill leaving. I remember
Aubameyang. Yeah, it was very like, we're going to replace the experience that we've already let go, or the previous ownership let go in Rudiger and Christensen and Werner and Lukaku. So I understand the logic to it, but I think sometimes youth blocks youth. Sometimes we stockpile and we buy too many young players, and then there's no space for them to actually be integrated. I don't think our situation is that we don't want to put through young players. I just think we're very poor at integrating them, and that we don't have a clear plan for them. Too often we go and sign somebody and someone else in their position for a lot of money, and then by the bare basics of political wages and transfer fee, you kind of ruined the young player's chance, right? Musiala wanted to go back to Germany. I think his parents were from Germany. I think German and Nigerian. So I think he was always going to go. He left at a very young age. It's just unfortunate. Levi Colwill was going to be expected to be here next year.
That's great.
According to all the reports, and that's really good. I was really annoyed when I heard that we could be selling him last summer. It's one of the things I disagreed with Tuchel, is that Tuchel was looking like he was fine to let him go for a permanent transfer. And it depends on the manager, because again, if you have a manager, and this is where Chelsea have got this wrong before, if you have a manager that is thinking about winning now, and it's not a problem, right? You want to win trophies, but that comes at a consequence for some young players who are not ready to win now and need developing. If the coach doesn't want to develop those young players and he wants to get soldiers in, then a lot of those young players will be tossed to the wayside, because there's a lot of pressure at Chelsea to win. And if you don't win, you get sacked. So it's all about mirroring the recruitment team, the manager, the board. Everybody needs to be in one track mind of thinking. And Chelsea have never had that. Chelsea have always had, Neil Bath and youth academy coach and everybody ready to develop, but their manager, first team's not interested in that, and the board wants to win now. So everything's always been, a bit too all over the place. There's never been one clear ethos of how we're going to do it. So,
and you know what? Since we're short on time, I'm just gonna move on to the game now. But before we go any further, people, don't forget to hit that goddamn like button. We currently have 113 of you guys in the chat. Make sure you do hit that like button. We also have like 70 of you guys on TikTok. So also come over here on YouTube if you guys want to check it out. And also, I'm so close to 20,000 subscribers. So please do hit that subscribe button if you're new out here. It really does help the channel out a lot. Now, Matisse, we're probably going to go get Declan Rice. We're going to try to strengthen our squad and everything else, but we're not really focused on this game. This game almost seems like it's an afterthought after losing to Man City and everything else. And as you said, there's not much hype going into it. So I'm not going to sit here and dissect the lineup too much. I think Arteta should make changes and probably start Trossard, probably play Jorginho. But yeah, that's the only real changes I make to my lineup. When it comes to predictions, I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think a lot of people are expecting this to be an Arsenal blowout and to destroy you guys. I don't think we're going to come in. We're going to bang in 3 goals and take you guys for as like the sacrificial lamb for everything that happened over the last couple of weeks. Although I would want that, I think your defense is so good that it's going to be a close 1 or 2-0 victory for us rather than demoralizing defeat for you guys. But yeah, what do you think?
With Lampard, I don't know what he's going to do. So for me, it goes between a 2-0 and a 3-0 loss. We can't score goals. He could put out a disgusting lineup again. Hopefully he doesn't. I'd love to be proven wrong. But based on what he's done up until this point, and he's lost every game, it's tough to see that he won't lose against one of the best teams in the league. So I would say that it's going to be a comfortable defeat. I don't think that we're going to come out there and throw the towel in, but your quality and your actual preparation in terms of the way that you play, and everybody knows what they want to do on that pitch in terms of everybody's roles, responsibilities, the chemistries, that will all override any fight and effort that we have or that we try and give in the first 20, 30 minutes. Because at the end of the day, you can fight and this is not UFC. Do you know what I mean? This is football. You can fight as much as you want, and you can care and dig deep and all that shit. But at the end of the day, do you know what you're doing when you get the ball? Do you have combinations that you can look to? Can you play that blind pass around the corner because you know your teammates there? Do you have those combinations? If you don't have that, you don't have anything, really. Especially when you're watching Premier League right now, everybody's systems and their tactics are on point. So, yeah, I think for me, it's going to be a defeat. It's just a case of how many.
There you go. Honestly, man, really do appreciate you coming on.
Pleasure,
one more thing. Declan Rice. What do you think about Declan Rice? Because your fan base hates him.
Do you know what? I say it a lot, and I've been victim to this as well when I was on Twitter more often when I wasn't on YouTube. I think a lot of people, they hate players or they dislike players because of what is around that player, the fanfare around that player, and who rates that player and who supports that player and what that player symbolizes, not really the actual player. If you watch the player, he's a very, very good player. Is there a few things that I would be wary of with him stepping up into a top team? Yes, I would. I think there's a few more things that he has to prove. But he, if you're talking about 80-90% of his game, he's a very, very good player. Switches play with both feet. He's strong in a tackle, good positioning. He can recover and get back. He can carry the ball. He's got a shot on him. Come on. This is a very, very good player. He's proven that years and years and years playing in the Premier League. But again, with our fan base, it's more about, like I said, who is. It's all just tribal. It's all cliques, and it's all standing. And I'm not really interested in most of that, to be honest. Like I don't stand players, to be honest. I don't really care. My favorite players at Chelsea are the ones that are performing at the highest level. Simple as that. That's how I see it.
Fair enough. And did you give a score prediction or did I miss that?
I said 2 or 3-0. If I knew the lineup, it would be a lot easier. I'd say it's probably going to be 3-0. I know you guys are not confident, but you haven't seen us.
You know what? I was just worried because we haven't won a game in 4 games. We've dropped points in 4 games. Where it's like I'm not sure what your run is, but I know it's a little worse than that. But yeah, honestly, everyone in the chat has been very nice today. I really do appreciate everyone being nice to Matisse. Big up Matisse for jumping on, man. Hopefully, definitely speak to you soon. Whenever there's something coming up, and if you ever need an Arsenal guy, hit me up. I know you got a lot of Arsenal fans.
There's a lot of you guys, man. I think out of every club on YouTube, you guys you're just everywhere.
Abundance, yeah.
Jesus Christ, honestly.
If you're ever missing out on Dan, you got Lee, you got friggin' Premzy. You can hit up James.
I've never even collabed with Premzy, funnily enough.
Oh,
Babs,
really?
Yeah, because it just hasn't happened. But it's like, obviously at some point, hopefully, I'm sure it will. But it's just like I said, with you guys, it's just too many of you lot. So I'm talking about, it's too many of you on the streets, and it's too many of you on YouTube.
You know what? I remember you and Monster started your channel around the same time, and the strides that you've made, man. Big up to you, man. Honestly,
appreciate it. Thank you.
Working with journalists, doing everything you're doing.
Yeah,
and it's like I remember you didn't even have a channel when you were going on rants and Deludus channel like a couple years ago. And it's like the levels you've reached so quickly, man. Hopefully you go higher and higher, man. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Thank you. It's a shame that Monster's still not running this thing, but he's doing a real job. Bro,
the guy's making close to 6 figures, bro. He's good.
He's good. He's good.
You know what I mean? But yeah, we're out of here, people. Hopefully you guys do subscribe to Matisse's channel. I know you're doing a watch along very soon, so go check that out. Go check that out, guys. And yeah, everyone, have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hopefully Arsenal win. And hopefully it's a good game for the neutrals and we get a high scoring game. But really and truly, I just want a 1-0 Arsenal victory and get me back in winning ways. I don't really mind. And you will take a point at this point if you can get a point.
Yeah, I would.
There you go. Have a good one, guys. We're out of here. Peace.